There is a secret that most pro athletes, elite CEOs, and high performers all know. They all have a group of world-class coaches working for them to help them optimize their potential. At SuperAthlete Radio, our goal is to provide you with the caliber of world-class coaches and guests to help you unlock your potential, dominate your industry, and dominate your life. Let's get better today. Welcome back to SuperAthlete Radio, where in today's episode, we are going to talk about what I believe is the best way to view fit tech wearables, a strategy you can apply today to improve your heart rate variability, which is a direct correlator of how much stress that you have in your life, and stress is the biggest indicator of how fast you age. And then also 4, I don't want to say unknown, but smaller items that could be inhibiting your gains in the gym. So I'm really excited to share this with you. Fit Tech Wearables. In SuperAthlete Training Camp, in the second month, we give out a free Oura Ring, which gets a lot of love and support from our clients. But clients take the Oura Ring. A ton of them already have an Apple Watch, Fitbit, Whoop Strap. They all kind of look at the data in different ways. And this is kind of like one of the skills now in the world that we live in, is how can we best utilize data to actually improve our lives and improve our behaviors rather than letting the data run us. You know, I personally don't buy this. I hear it a lot, but I stopped using my Oura Ring because I got obsessed with it and it was inhibiting my sleep or something like that. I feel like we could do a little bit better than that, but shout out to those who are unable to get to sleep because they're worried about their Oura Ring score. But overall, what I want to speak about today is how do we best use data from the Oura Ring, heart rate variability, how well we're sleeping. How do we best use our Apple Watch when it comes to fit tech and fit wearables? And the way I like to look at it is, this is something I learned from Brian Johnson. I'm a certified optimized coach through his company Heroic. And this is something that he consistently talks about, is when you're at your best, what are the things that you're doing day in and day out in your life, right? Structure and consistency create perfection, like LeBron James says. Robin Sharma, another leadership expert, talks about how greatness is consistency on the fundamentals. So what are the things that you're doing really well when you're looking, feeling, and performing at your best? And then what are the things that you know you shouldn't be doing that impact your day-to-day in terms of how you feel, how much energy you have, how you perform under pressure? And what a fit tech wearable does is it provides potential data for you to utilize to add more to the column of, okay, when I'm looking, feeling, and performing at my best, I do this every day. Whether that's, so like one thing for me is, if I stop eating 2.5, 3 hours before bed, it has like a 15% increase on my heart rate variability. So based on the data, I know that is a behavior I want to be consistent with, because it impacts a huge amount in terms of my stress levels and how my body is responding to things, right? It's not resting, it's digesting. And what fit tech wearables do, I feel like the best way to use them is it gives you stuff to add to the list and then what to take away, right? So that is an example of something I want to take away. I don't want to eat 2.5, 3 hours before bed. Maybe I take a supplement like ashwagandha and I notice that it has a direct impact on my HRV. Maybe that's something I want to consistently add. I wouldn't recommend taking ashwagandha every day because it can dull cortisol, which is something that we want as part of our circadian rhythm, but something to add to the protocol if I see that it works. A supplement that I've been experimenting with the last couple of weeks is something called yohimbe extract, which I have noticed it has had a distinct ergonomic impact for me, and then also energy, but it also raises my heart rate, right? So when I look at my data, I have been able to make that correlation that when I take that, my heart rate's going to be up about 15%, 20% more than it is normally. So it's just an awareness tool for me to be able to use to figure out, what am I taking when I'm at my best? What am I doing when I'm at my best? What am I not doing? And that's why I think the power is in tech. It provides a deeper level of awareness. And if you follow us on the podcast and the guests that we have on there, we talk about supplements, and we talk about peptides, and we talk about stem cells, and we talk about deer antler velvet. But a consistent theme that people talk about in terms of the world's best performers, and then coaching the world's best performers, is awareness. Awareness in terms of what works for us and what doesn't. So in terms of wearables, that is something that I distinctly look at as the number one benefit to having an Oura Ring, to having a Fitbit, to having a Whoop strap, is being able to really see, this is what works for me, this is what doesn't work, and then just add that to your daily protocol. I highly recommend you check out the Heroic app, and in that app, what they have is the opportunity for you to set up, this is what I do when I'm at my best during the day, and this is what I do this is what I know not to do. They've actually become a sponsor of the podcast, so highly recommend you check that out. Okay, I also wanted to talk about something specifically you can do to raise your heart rate variability and why this is important. HRV is really important because it is the number one indicator of how your body is responding to stress and how you are responding to stress. And we had the world's foremost HRV expert on SuperAthlete Radio a couple months ago, Marco Altini. And one of the things he talks about is that we think about our HRV and how it's responding to the past day's physical workload and physical training session, but it's not usually the physical piece which is causing our HRV to be lower. It's usually some kind of emotional or mental stress. And when we run gene tests through SuperAthlete and methylation tests, and we look at people and how quickly they're aging, what we have seen is the number one factor that determines how quickly you age is your ability to, how you respond to stress. Elizabeth Blackburn wrote a book called The Telomere Effect a few years ago. She won a Nobel Prize for this, and this is something that she talked about. We do all these different things for aging and performance and longevity, but really our ability to respond to stress quickly is going to determine how quickly we age. So we want to keep that HRV up. And I have a journal article here from 2022, which looked at the impact of heart rate variability and cognitive functions in young adults. And as I've already mentioned, HRV, it's an important physiological biomarker of well-being, mood, and adaptation. And improvements in HRV signify improved health, mood, and adaptation to stress. And again, we're not talking about reducing stress here. No pressure, no diamonds. What we're talking about is providing the tools to help you deal and conquer with any stress that you have in your life. So the study looked at 4 weeks, and it was 20 minutes of resonance breathing and how that impacted HRV, stress, and cognitive function. And how they defined resonance breathing was a breathing pattern that kept the number of breaths between 5 and 7 per a minute, if I understand this correctly. Most people breathe too often. Most people breathe 12, 15 times per minute. That's way too much. And okay, it's 4.5 to 7 breaths per minute to maximize their specific resonance breathing, their RSA. Self-training and resonance breathing lowers stress, blood pressure, and improves mood. Training on resonance breathing improves vagal tone, therefore improving HRV, which is an index of stress and health. And what this study found is, before I get into the study, I know many of you guys already know this. It's just a question of, are you applying it? Are you taking the time to slow down and apply this stuff? Because it works, and it's a powerful lever. It's a powerful free lever that you can pull to dramatically improve your well-being in life and then performance. I think that too many high performers, myself included in the past, and I'll say now, still have a hard time shutting completely off and recovering and not having hesitations about I should be doing something else, which raises cortisol, which diminishes the recovery in the first place. So this is stuff that you possibly have heard before, but I just want to show that science backs it up, and I want to see if that you guys are doing it. So this is what the study found. 20 minutes of breath work a day, and it's simple breath work. We're just talking about 4.5 to 7 breaths per minute. And this is what they found. So, the most common one is something I learned about 10 years ago from Coach Mark Devine. And he brought kind of box breathing to the world. And it's 5-second inhale, 5-second hold, 5-second exhale, 5-second hold. Okay. In the current randomized control study, we conclude that 20 minutes of resonance frequency breathing every day for 4 weeks may lead to positive changes in HRV, i.e. increased parasympathetic and decreased sympathetic activity. It also may improve cognition and reduce the perceived stress level among young adults. It is recommended that young men and women should practice deep breathing at the resonance frequency for a few minutes every day. This will allay anxiety and stress, improve your cognitive performance, which is a huge deal, and also reduce their cardiovascular morbidity. So that's my challenge to you in terms of what you can do today to increase your HRV is to take 10, 12 minutes and just breathe and focus on slow breaths, resonant breathing. Keep the exhale slightly longer than the inhale, and that activates the parasympathetic nervous system. We also had a gentleman on the podcast a couple months ago who measured this with a biofeedback machine, and he actually was a fan of 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale with no holds in between. And what he found was that that was the fastest way to raise HRV. Let me get the name for you here. Dr. Chris Friesen. So he used neurofeedback, and he found that in using neurofeedback, the 5-second inhale to 5-second exhale was the fastest way to raise HRV. So that's something to experiment with as well. But that goes with the study in terms of the resonance breathing. Okay. And last thing I want to talk about today is what potentially could be holding you back in the gym. Everything that we talk about here at SuperAthlete is about improving performance, mental and physical, and performance at home, performance spiritually. How do we do that? How do we, as Josh Waitzkin, the famous chess and jiu-jitsu player, like to say, how do we make our best even better? And how do we make our best, what we did today, our new baseline? So, we talk about big things and things in the gym, and we talk about how you add muscle. You can do caloric surplus and taking the right supplements and time under tension, and all of those have a heavy impact in terms of getting the right adaptation you want. But I wanted to talk about a couple that you may not have on the radar, which can be super valuable in terms of helping you maximize your adaptation. So number one is poor dental hygiene. We had Dr. Nathan Bryan on the podcast in September, And he talked about how the teeth are really the gateway to the central nervous system. And taking care of your teeth, man, I wish I knew this when I was younger. I'm still cleaning my stuff up now, but we've gotten all the mercury out, and now I'm cleaning up, getting my gums healthy and my teeth straight. But if your gums are bleeding due to infrequent flossing and improper brushing, your body is constantly making C-reactive proteins, which means your body is in a chronic state of inflammation. And if your body is in a chronic state of inflammation, this robs proteins that can be used to synthesize new muscle tissue to fight off the infection, right? There's only so many resources we have. It's opportunity cost. If your body's resources are going to reduce inflammation from your teeth and gums, then it's not going to be able to go to muscle growth. And, you know, we've actually seen this even in the past where after athletes go through training plateaus, we see them go through training plateaus after visiting the dental hygienist, since the teeth cleaning can aggravate inflamed gums. So take care of your teeth and it will improve your performance in the gym. The second thing that may be impacting you at the gym is your levels of pregnenolone. That's a tough say, pregnenolone. Pregnenolone is the hormone precursor used by the body to make both cortisol and DHEA, which of course eventually becomes testosterone. And because stress levels are so high with people today, it forces the body to preferentially use pregnenolone to make cortisol instead of DHA. And as a result, cortisol levels rise and DHEA levels go down, leading to decreased muscle growth. And this is something that can be solved with a blood test, a blood panel. You can see what your numbers are. But once you get your hormone profile plotted out, 4 to 8 to 12 weeks, you can get that completely turned around, and it can have a huge impact in terms of your daily energy levels, what you're getting in the gym in terms of results, and your performance. So if you have a lot of stress in your life, it is probably impacting your levels of pregnenolone, which is going to impact your ability to build muscle and get strong. Okay, another under the radar thing that might be impacting you at the gym. Oh yeah, real quick, when you think about your teeth, remember I just watched the movie Gladiator again with my younger son last month. Remember at the start where slaves were selected for fighting by checking the slave's gums to see if it was a good purchase? That was like an indicator that even for, way back then, thousands of years ago, they understood the power of how taking care of our teeth and gums and what that does to impact performance. The third thing that might be an under the radar thing that is impacting your results in the gym is something called glycation. Glycation, I guess the way to describe it, it's kind of like the browning. Like think of the browning that makes the crust on the bread. It's the cross-linking of proteins and DNA molecules caused by sugar aldehydes reacting with the amino acids on the protein molecule. And what it does is, if you want to see protein cross-linking in action, cut an apple in half and see how quickly it turns brown. What most people don't realize is that glucose can be oxidized. And the worst glycation agent is actually fructose, simply because it doesn't raise insulin. So the insulin is not getting the sugar into muscle cells. Therefore, it kind of lingers around and it can cause havoc on your metabolism. And so on average, you don't want to be eating more than 5 to 10 grams of fructose a day. If you're super active, that could go up to 15, 20 grams, but be aware of glycation and what's going on inside your body if you have more than 20 grams. And one of the worst sources of glycating fructose is the weight loss bars containing high fructose corn syrup. That's just some shit that's just really not good for you. And there are a couple nutrients that you can take that can help effectively with glycation. This is actually something I'm experimenting with currently. One of them is carnosine, and then botanicals like stinging nettle that help effectively deal with it. And I will let you know how I feel. I've taken the injectable form of carnosine for the first time. So I'm going to let you know how I feel after taking that. But again, this is something that can be checked through a blood panel. We have a blood panel here at SuperAthlete. If you don't get it here, you can get it through your general practitioner. But ask your doctor to measure the concentration of glycated hemoglobin in your blood. And it's a way to really see. In England, actually, a study revealed that it's one of the best measures to predict mortality, far better than cholesterol, blood pressure, and body mass index. And the fourth thing that may be impacting, this isn't that under the radar, but that could be impacting your results in the gym is how many carbs that you take. I'm not someone who says no carb, but if you look at the data, I think 75-80% of people just do not respond well to carbs. And I always like the Charles Poliquin take of you really got to earn your carbs. So once you get under sub 10% body fat, then we'll start talking carbs. Before then, unnecessary. Sub 10% for men, sub 16, 15 for women. But eating high carbs, we're in the holiday season right now, but eating a lot of sugars like that, it lowers the immune system, and it also impacts your body in all kinds of different ways. So what the high carbohydrate diet is going to do, it's also going to lower stomach acid, and because of that, essential nutrients are not going to be absorbed, again, to a weakening of the immune system. And going back to what we said earlier, that the adaptation that you want from the gym requires resources of your body to adapt and put energy to generate that tissue. And those resources, just like with the teeth, are going to be directed in other ways. So 4 things that could be impacting you at the gym under the radar are too much fructose, which is causing glycation within the body, too many carbs, your pregnenolone, I'm getting a little better at saying that, your pregnenolone levels are super low, and poor dental hygiene. So try those out. And thank you again for listening to SuperAthlete Radio. If you have not yet subscribed, do us a favor, subscribe below whatever podcast platform you do. That would be fantastic. And then please leave us a review. It is the easiest and best way to support the show, and it's totally free. Let's get better today.